change the dates? To select the dates is,
No, we will put if you look at, you don't have the timber sale contract in a section of it, it states that, at the period of the contract.
you can just.
Well, I'm just saying, it shows that we haven't filled in the dates. It shows the period of the contract and the certain dates from and to. If we put that in there, it also goes down that the seller has the right to extend it or start it earlier. What we're asking for is, we will put specific dates in there.
The latitude of the forest committee to.
But what we're asking is that you put in there that instead of the seller, the forestry committee and the forester has the right to either extend the date, and it would only be probably a couple of weeks difference. Either a couple of weeks earlier or a couple of weeks later. Instead of having, say March 15th was the end of the contract, and for his cutting period, and the way the winter went and brush fire season and so on and so forth, they really couldn't, it wasn't an opportune time to go in there and do it.
well, we've gone out to bid, right, Greg?
Yes.
Yes.
Therefore, there's a contract already. With
Once it's been
language.
approved by council, yes. The contract was drafted by the forestry committee or by the forester. Needs to be looked at by council.
So, what's in the contract is what? Whoever we award it to has to.
I understand is council or the town administrator haven't seen it, correct?
I have seen it, and I've sent it off to council for his review.
Okay.
Who's the forester? Who is it?
Forest, the
Who is it?
forester is a,
John Robbins.
Thank you.
He was hired a couple of years ago when we first started this, and
the same individual.
yeah, he's been going through the whole thing.
If you think that it's either going to be 2 weeks earlier or 2 weeks later, why don't we just change the wording of that contract to cover that time period in the contract, so you don't.
We could do that. It was just that this is a contract, a sample contract,
Right.
okay? And this is like, I did a couple cuttings on my property, and I had this, actually, it was almost exactly like this contract, okay? And so that's what we're presenting to you.
Understood, but you're saying that it may be advantageous to do it 2 weeks earlier, or it may be advantageous to do it 2 weeks
Well,
later than what the contract calls for, so just extend the time period in the.
We kind of wanted to have the standard, so the contract that we tell him, this is your time period to perform, okay? So that he doesn't, we don't want to have somebody say, well, the contract says from this time until this time, we don't want it to go to the last minute or whatever. We want to put some times in there. Like I say, we can do that, but I'm just going by the contract that we presented to the town administrator.
One of the other things too, Sean, is that we were concerned about impact on the neighborhood as far as the trucks coming and going, and
There will be well, yeah, they
as
will,
far as
they're not
when
gonna.
they contract for, and then when are they actually gonna come in for what period of time? They're not gonna be coming from October 1st all the way to the end of March or mid-March.
No,
It's a,
when they come, they will finish, because they've got machinery and stuff they're bringing in, so it's not like, say, a carpenter that comes in with his bucket of tools and works for a day and then goes home and you never see him for another 3 weeks. He's got machinery and stuff in there. He wants to complete it, obviously, the time it takes him, the quicker he does it, the more money he's gonna make. So I don't think that's a problem. We are going to have, we will have an abutters list. We will notify the butters that are directly abutting it as to when the cutting program is going to happen, and we will have a meeting that they can come to if they have any concerns or, questions about it.
are any private landowners looking to piggyback on the same time frame?
No?
Why not?
Why not, yeah.
There's.
We give them that
This is
option.
as far as economies of scale here for the contractor.
There's no private land in that area that's large enough that would be feasible to do. The only people there is people's backyard. So, and we have, if you look at the forestry program to begin with, there is a buffer zone where so far from the Swan Pond Road itself and so far in from the boundaries, you know, so that we're keeping a buffer zone. The only place it's gonna be opening is where they're going in off of Swan Pond Road. There's a gate there now. We might open in that area a little bit, just so that they can get in and out. But that's it.
I just thought, you know, I mean, you own some property up there, Nelson's owned some property up there still, does he?
But
I just didn't know.
I don't actually now because of development, I don't,
Oh, it's not much of it.
you know, I still have enough land in a forestry program, but there's not enough that, and it wouldn't, actually, in a sense, you couldn't really piggyback it because they still have to move all the machinery. So you're talking about, you know, you're talking about a move, so, and they'd have to bid, they have to do the same thing. This has all been approved by the state too. This has to be approved by the state. So it's not, you know, I would have to, if I had land up there, again, you know, bordering that, I would have had to gone through this whole process and had the state approve it and be all ready on that basis. And then I would have to go out in a contract, and if somebody had offered me more money than what you people are getting, then I certainly am not gonna hire that same guy. But there is nobody in there that has enough land to make it feasible economically anyways.
So, just so I can recap. We've gone through, let's say, phase 2, we've marked trees, we have a contract that is somewhere in the middle of being reviewed by town council, and what's the next step after that? It goes out to bid, but we
No, it's
already...
already out.
Delta bid.
The bids are in.
You're approved.
So the contract is related to what?
Accepting one of the bids.
Contract is related to the board giving it its general endorsement to proceed with the project this evening. That's all we're looking for. We're not looking you to sign the contract. That's my authority, and that's what I do, is I sign the contract once it comes back from council.
I was gonna ask you that.
The recommendation is whether you accept the recommendation of the forestry committee as presented here this evening to proceed with the project. If you do, then we'll proceed with getting everything done as Mr. Rose stated here earlier.
And he's making a recommendation for us to select the largest return,
Highest.
highest return
Highest
back to the
bidder.
town.
Right.
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Steele?
Yes. We'll have that contract for our perusal.
You can look at it, but I will sign it.
No, I understand that.
Of course.
But I assume
But
that-
I will sign it. I don't want to have the contract to be ripped to shreds, Jeff. That's part of the reason why is I'd like to, I'll let you look at it, but the contract is going to pretty much go as it's recommended back from council.
Okay, that's fine. I
Yeah.
don't have a problem with that.
Appreciate that.
When did you send the contract in?
When to what?
When did you send the contract into this office?
2 weeks ago? I think,
Our meeting was January 3rd, so I mentioned it in the day.
yeah, the next day, we gave,
About 2 weeks ago, okay.
we're asking the same thing, although it's kind of immaterial, but we're asking, I'm going to the Conservation Commission tomorrow night to ask them to approve it. And Steve Nathan is meeting with the school committee tonight on another matter, but he's gonna bring it up to get them to approve it. It's been brought to my attention that it doesn't make any difference whether they do or don't, because all the land is under the jurisdiction of the town. But we've started this process going through each different board, because it is school land, but the town administrator is the one that has the authority to sign the contract. And my understanding, and I'm not positive, that money comes back to the general government,
General fund.
General fund.
general fund.
It's all general fund money.
And then if the school committee, or the conservation committee, or the forestry committee want any of that money, we put a request into the town administrator, and then it goes through the board of selectmen.
And the plan is to get this done this season, right? Between now and March?
If possible. It depends on
And if
how.
you miss March, then it goes on for another year?
Yes,
To
yeah.
the fall.
Yep.
Right, to the fall when there's no leaves on the
Right.
trees and...
Well, generally, it's when the contractor is available, okay? And during the summer, they're generally not doing this. Plus, the summer conditions usually, you know, fire danger, et cetera, and obviously in the summertime, it's, you know, more people out, it's noisy, and we personally, like, if it was my own land, it probably wouldn't make too much difference, but where this is a public land where people are gonna be walking through it, we'd rather have the summer, you know, open so that there's nothing in there.
No,
other than
what I'm
people.
saying is, in the contract, there's a set of dates,
Let's review.
begin and end by this.
And if I may clarify in the dates, you know, the dates are very weather dependent, so in the contract, you'd have a set of dates in there when you think the conditions would be good, ground hard, not soft, that type of thing. But what Dana was asking before was to give the Forest Committee the ability to negotiate changes to the contract so that, you know, if you're coming up on March and, you know, maybe conditions are great and the ground's frozen into, you know, past the middle of March, that we could extend it 2 weeks if necessary. We would very much like to get it done in this season, although time's getting short, so it could
And
be.
I think we can make this thing a lot simpler by you just coming back to the board if you need to extend the
Well,
dates.
excuse me, to me, it's just,
It's in.
To Greg, yeah.
in other words, you know,
all you have to
That's what
do.
I'm trying
you
to
know,
get
and
to.
by mutual,
I
you know,
agree.
what's the,
Accept in general and move the
you know, if the date needs to be moved, the forestry committee can recommend to the town
Thank you.
administrator, and the town administrator has the authority
Yeah, it doesn't need to come back
to,
here.
That'll
do
be
it.
fine. I was just trying to,
Yep.
you know, if you don't have a meeting for whatever reason on
yeah,
a Monday and it comes
to me, I
sometimes.
don't
need
need,
us.
I don't need to pick the date. You know, nice to hear what it is, but, you know, to me, he's gonna sign the contract. If the dates need to be extended and the contract allows for it, the forestry committee can make a recommendation to the town administrator to extend those dates.
Okay,
That's
so
all.
then the seller in the contract would be, in that particular paragraph, assuming the lawyer keeps it, would be the town administrator.
Yeah.
Okay,
With the recommendation of the forestry committee, town
Right.
administrator.
in the forester, yeah.
And otherwise, stick to it.
Because a lot of this too is like Scott said, if in fact, you know, even like, say, the first couple of weeks, and the weather we've had has certainly been different, you know, and it's been, actually, it's been a great season this whole winter for doing this. It hasn't been really that wet, and it's been very good. There hasn't been a lot of snow. So if we could do it this year, it certainly would be better, but yeah, if we can't, it's on for next year also.
I'm just gonna ask consensus of the board, no one has any problems with this project?
I-
It's in Greg's hands?
Yep.
I don't even know if it should even be here. I mean, that was my
No,
concern.
he's informing us, he's telling us.
And if you sign that contract and it starts snowing,
Yeah, it's
you
not
know,
your fault.
you're gonna be held accountable.
It depends, actually, snow probably is not much of a problem for them, really. The problem is
ground
the
frozen.
wet.
Dana, I think he was just being funny.
Oh.
He's trying to blame the next snowstorm on you. Thank you, Dana, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Next item on our agenda are some appointments, I believe. Economic Development Subcommittee and Historical Commission. Mr. Prisco.
Mr. Chairman, I move to place in nomination the following name for appointment to the Economic Development Committee for a term to expire on December 31st, 2014. Richard Wallner, 57 Lakeside Boulevard.
Do I hear a second? Motion by Mr. Prisco, second by
Yeah,
Mr.
it's in-
O'Leary.
I-
Discussion?
Yes, as the liaison, I can speak to Mr. Wallner. About 2 months ago, I think it was now, members of the CPC, myself, and I believe the chair was present. We interviewed 3 potential candidates to this committee. Although all 3 candidates appreciate their submittals and they were quality candidates, we felt as though that Mr. Wallner had some attributes that were ideally suited for the Economic Development Committee. He's a real estate owner, developer, or had been in the past. He's a resident of town for a number of years up in the Martins Pond area. Somewhat active already in the community with the athletic programs, as well as, I believe, he's a member of, I think I actually have it right here.
Yes.
He's on the Council of Aging, I believe, yes, he's on the Council of Aging Board. He is the opinion and the consensus of the committee that did the interviews that he was the best and most suitable candidate to be appointed to the Economic Development Committee at this time. We are in search of other potential candidates, but at this time, he was the most suitable candidate for the Economic Development Committee. So I'd ask the board to approve his appointment this evening.
And you're still looking for additional people?
Yes.